Welcome to the Pages training module. This training covers everything for the Pages module, which is where all the pages are listed and what creates the menu structure for your site. The topics covered: adding a new page, page layouts and page modes, and then changing page settings. Alright, so when you log into the back end, on the main menu you've got one called Pages, and in here what you'll see is all your pages, and then if you've got pages underneath pages, so it's the whole structure of your site. Okay, if we select a page, okay, you then get this new panel load in here. Okay, and what you'll have across here is a number of tabs. Okay, the main two that you'll use are page settings, and this is basically only sort of when you're creating the page you'll use the page settings, and then you won't use that unless you need to update one of those bits of information. The one that you'll use all the time is page layout. Okay, and we'll go through that through these training videos. So we're going to talk about these two areas mainly. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start by creating a new page. So we'll walk you through that process of creating a new page. Okay, so the first step you want to do is, where do you want the page to be created? Okay, so we're going to go, we want it under this training section. Okay, so what you do is select the top page, so the training page, and what that'll do is now when we click add new, it will default to being created underneath that one. Okay, so we'll go add new. Okay, and as you can see, it says underneath the training page. Okay, if you don't do that, then you have to select the page in the drop down that you actually want it to be created underneath. Okay, the next step, you'll pretty much always just have it as a page. Okay, the other options here are one-off pages that are usually set up when your site's built. So if you have an A to Z page, if you have a sitemap, if you have a search, those sorts of things. Okay, so most of the time you don't need to change anything in here. Okay, step 3 is where you select the layout of your page. Okay, so this means you can break the page up into different columns and layouts. Okay, so this one just has one column, this one has two columns split evenly, and so on with all the different layouts there that you have available. Okay. The next step 4 is where you select the mode of the page. Okay, and this is basically how much of the page is used by that design. Okay, so this one here means it will stretch and use the whole width. This one will leave a little bit just on each side. This one here is the main one that you'd probably use as sort of like a content page one. So it sets it to a good width for reading content. Okay, so it's not too wide for someone trying to read it on screen. Okay, so we'll select two columns and we'll select this layout for the mode, and then we're going to go create. Okay, so now what it's done is it's created a new page, and it's a draft one, so it's not save, it's not live. Okay, so in here we need to give the page a name. Okay, so we're going to call it test page. And then what you can do is, if you click down to the navigation label, which will be the next one you edit, you'll see that as soon as you do that, it updates the URL for the page and it puts the navigation label. Okay, so it defaults to the one that you've put in here. Okay, if you want either of these two to be different, here you can just go edit and change the physical page URL, and this will be what actually appears in your menu. So if you want that to look different in your menu, then you can change that there as well. Okay, if you're using the page owners module, then in here you can select the different people that own this content as well. Okay, so underneath here now you've got a whole lot of accordions where you can do different settings for this page. Okay, so we're going to look at the page options. So in here, the page heading and the summary, these are used if your website is using the page header module. Okay, so if it is, this is where you would edit the heading and the page summary that appears at the top of your page. Okay, if you're not using that, then you don't need to put anything in there. Okay, the next option is for the share icons. Okay, so a lot of the pages you have the ability to have down the bottom for people to share this page on Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Okay, so down here you can decide whether that displays on every single page. You can set the margins for it, and you can set a max width of it as well. Okay. Next one, you can decide whether breadcrumbs are displayed on the page as well. So if we go back there again, see breadcrumbs are up the top here, so it gives that way to jump back through the site for where you are sitting at the moment. Okay, so you've got the option whether you can turn that on or not, and max width for that as well. Okay, so then we've got some other display options. So this is where you want this page to display. So do you want this page to appear on the sitemap? Do you want it to appear in the popular links? You've also got the ability to have at the bottom of the page an online form that says, was this page useful? So then people can submit and tell you whether the page is useful or not. Okay. Next one is whether this page needs to open in a new window. Okay. So sometimes you might have subsites in your website that you want to then make sure that when the user clicks on that, it opens a new tab because the site looks completely different. Okay. Next option is a page keyword. So if you're using the page keywords as well for your site, then you can assign a unique keyword for the page in here. Right, so the next section we're going to look at is translations. Okay, so again, if you're using the page headings and summaries, then in here you can add in a translation. So you could go Māori, and you can put in the navigation label translation, the heading, and the summary translation. Okay, and if you've entered those in there, they'll display on your site as well. Okay, next one's search and metadata. Okay, so in here, this will be the headings that is displayed in search results and the description, and this is where you can add in some custom meta tags as well. Okay, if you know what you're doing there, to add in some extra ones for search engines. Okay, if you don't put anything in here by default, it'll just use the information we can get from the page. All right, social media. So in here, you can override the existing page titles and descriptions, so that if someone shares it on Facebook, it'll use these titles and description in the image you upload, and same with Twitter as well. The next one is A to Z. Okay, so if your site has an A to Z page, then this is where you would come in and add A to Z labels for the page. What it means is that you can have one page that has multiple names for it, so that it will appear under the different letters in the alphabet. Okay, so if it was talking about a rubbish collection, it might be under rubbish, it might be under dump, it might be, those sorts of things, so it can come under different letters. Okay, so in here you just go add, and you'll add all the different ones in there as well. Okay. Page footer, so at the bottom of your site, if you've got a page footer, okay, so that's this area here. Okay, you've got the ability to have a navigation structure down the bottom here as well that you control. Okay, so in here you can decide whether the footer shows or not. Okay, you've got a few options on full width as well, and some margins that you can adjust. And then in here you would put the actual text, so the label you want for this page in that one, and then you can assign it to whichever column, and you can change the order by adjusting that number as well. Okay. So the advanced one is usually, we stay out of the ones that have got advanced on them. There, if you've been been through some advanced training, or there's something really specific that you want, and your site admin might go in there and make some changes. Okay. So that's all the things that you can do in page settings. Okay, so lots of settings. Once you know, as I say, there's only certain ones that you have to do by default, but you've got a lot of control in there of all the different things that you can do as well. Okay. So if you're happy with all the settings that you've got on there, okay, you can either save the page, which will just mean it's in draft. Okay, so if we save, you'll see it's updated the name, but it's still in draft, so it's not live yet. Okay. If we're ready to publish it, then we can select publish. Okay, and now you'll see the draft's gone and that page is live. Okay, if we did that by mistake, the 3 dots here, we can unpublish it and we can unpublish an archive. So archive is the same as deleting it. Okay, it just means that we have the ability that we can restore it if you deleted it by mistake as well. So everything's just called archive. Okay. The next area we're going to look at is the tab that's called page layout. Okay, and this is where you selected that you wanted 2 columns. Okay, so this is the layout you've chosen. Okay, so here at the moment this page has got 2 columns, but you can see that there's nothing added in there. So there's no elements yet that you've assigned to this page. Okay, but in here you can change the layout. So if you got the columns wrong, then you could come in here and change them. Okay, what you've also got in here is the ability to flip this layout. So if you want the smaller column on the other side, then you can say yes, I want to flip it. Okay, and then you've also got the ability to change the mode in here as well. The next one is adding a block. Okay, so there's a separate training module on adding blocks. So you'll need to watch that one for the next step of how to add a block to the page. All right. Okay, some other things in the pages as well. So down the bottom here, you can have split mode if you like, which will give you a preview of the site here as well while you're playing around with the editing. Or you can have preview mode, which then loads the whole site in there, or just have it in edit mode so you've got all the space there. Okay, but you've got some quick options down the bottom there to change what you're looking at. Okay, up the top here you've also got some other settings. If you look into settings, okay, this allows you to, again, if you needed to change that page type, but most of the time you'll just leave it on that. The visibility is one that you might use, which is you don't want to show it in the menu and you don't want to show it in the search. So this is where you control those. If you want to apply security to a page so that this page can only be viewed by certain groups, then you can do that in here as well. Okay. And then the history tab shows you all the versions of this page as well, so that you can restore to different versions of the pages if you need to. Okay, so if you need to edit any of the pages, you are just coming down the menu and selecting them, and you can change those settings or you can change those layouts. Right, so that's the end of this training video. If you still have any questions, please email support@webshed.co.nz.